government officials concerning the most wanted
What? Development on Osama bin Laden.
Are you?
I'm recording it.
Our chief White House correspondent Chuck Todd standing by at the White House. Chuck?
Yeah, get the screen good.
David, right now we're simply waiting on the technical issues in order to get the president on the air. He's going to speak from the East Room, and as you've been reporting, and a lot of our colleagues have been reporting, it has to do with Osama bin Laden. It has to do with what is going to be a major development. And as you know, this has been somebody, this country, our intelligence community and other intelligence from around the world have been searching for this man in those parts, those ungoverned parts of Afghanistan and Pakistan. And so in a few minutes, we're going to hear from the president. He's going to walk us through this, whether it is you captured him or killed him. But it is going to be a confirmation of a huge development regarding Osama bin Laden.
Let me also report
Bin Laden is the one
from government officials.
Bomb dark.
Terror.
The 2011. I mean, 2001.
So there has been an incident.
9/11, Jacob.
Which the president will take.
You ever have a 9/11 thing at school where they say a
on
prayer or something?
as he has been,
You guys do
for
something
some
for
time
9/11?
now.
No,
White
I
House
created it
officials
on
have been
Facebook.
monitoring developments out of Pakistan,
Whatever.
which of course is where the intelligence community believes that bin Laden has been hiding for many years. An incident coming out of that region, a lot of speculation about just what happened to bin Laden, captured or killed. But that is the subject of what the president will speak about tonight, Chuck. This is something we know that the president has been focused on, his national security.
See, it was
team,
important.
amping up efforts in recent months.
It's been the predator drone, as you know, David.
Chuck, let me just say, we can report, Chuck, forgive me for one moment, we can report, the president will announce that Osama bin Laden is in fact dead. That Osama bin Laden is dead.
He's dead.
Major development.
He didn't say he's dead.
Something the United States has sought to accomplish since the deadly attacks on 9/11 attacks in New York,
Osama bin Laden is dead.
and of course Pennsylvania. Tonight, as a result of the U.S. operation, the president will announce that Osama bin Laden has been killed. These many years after 9/11.
Wow.
He was elusive in the period following 9/11
NBC
up
News
until this point.
confirmed it.
Indeed, the intelligence community, as our own chief foreign affairs correspondent Andrea Mitchell can report, has been indeed not just trying, Andrea, but often frustrated with a trail that had seemed to go cold for some time.
Absolutely, and as you know, the CIA has taken this over, the Predator drones. This has been a military operation deeply resented by Pakistan. In fact, Pakistan-U.S. relations have been almost fractured by this. There have been some high-level meetings, top officials, military and intelligence within the last 2 weeks here in Washington at Langley at the CIA, arguing over the pace, the velocity of these drone attacks. But the U.S. has been insistent that this is an American prerogative. It has caused deep nationalistic resentment in Pakistan, but it has been a prime target, of course, of 2 administrations now. And since 2001, since 9/11, he has been, as you know, public enemy number 1. Osama bin Laden, in fact, was connected to the 1993 attack on the World Trade Center. He has been wanted for all of the terror incidents, of course, since 9/11. And he has been not only the founder with Ayman al-Zawahiri, the Egyptian-born doctor who helped him found Al-Qaeda, but has been previously in Afghanistan, was leading the Mujahideen against the Soviet Union with American help. Then the blowback, of course, of using those same weapons against the U.S. in the terror attacks that ensued. But Osama bin Laden, the capture or death of Osama bin Laden has been a prime target. And for Leon Panetta and the CIA and the military of the United States to have accomplished this, as Panetta has just been nominated, David, as you know so well, to become the new Secretary of Defense, is going to be an extraordinary achievement indeed. We don't know the exact circumstances, but as you have reported, the news that you've broken tonight is that an American action, a military action, and many of these actions are CIA, are involved.
Yeah, but I think they're gonna vote for Obama because of this.
Let me just get in here, Andrea. I just want to bring everybody up to speed on the very latest. The president will announce in mere moments that Osama bin Laden is dead. This is the result of a U.S. action. He's been killed by U.S. personnel, and I'm told by top government officials that in fact the United States has bin Laden's body. that the United States has bin Laden's body, they will confirm that it is him and that he has been killed by a U.S. action. As we have been describing, this is a huge development, one that the administration has been working, as a previous administration has since 9/11, often under the radar, despite frequent questions about bin Laden's location. This is something that resulted, according to sources, of a U.S. military action in Pakistan, something that White House officials have been monitoring throughout the day. There's been speculation in the region about what may have happened. And indeed, the president is now preparing, is currently writing his remarks, presumably is prepared to deliver them, as he's getting ready to do in just moments, late on a Sunday night here on the East Coast, following a major development. Chuck Todd, again, the latest details, military action has killed bin Laden. The United States has his body.
And David, the fact that the United States has his body, that may not mean it was necessarily a drone attack. As we know, those drone attacks make it so that you don't put personnel in danger. But the fact that that we have the body could tell us a little bit more about the action itself. David, you know, the last few times that we've gotten briefings here at the White House from the national security folks having to do with Al-Qaeda, almost all of it had to do with Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. And whenever we would ask about, well, what is the status with bin Laden and the hunt for bin Laden, and they would say, look, we're always going after him, we're always looking for him, but they have made him less effective for a long period of time, that he hadn't been able to direct the type of terrorist attacks that he was able to direct, obviously, before and up until 9/11, and that the more operational part of Al-Qaeda is Al-Qaeda in Yemen, essentially, David, but that didn't mean they were ever stopping their efforts to try to get bin Laden.
General Barry McCaffrey, decorated, of course, veteran of the Gulf War and a military analyst for NBC News. General McCaffrey, describe your reaction. This is a huge development on the part of the United States and this administration. U.S. military action, we believe in Pakistan, has resulted in the death of Osama bin Laden.
Yeah, well, it's an enormous shot in the arm to the armed forces. We've got to remind ourselves we've had 47,000 killed and wounded confronting terrorism since 9/11. So I think this is very good news. Very much look forward to what the president has to say about the tools we use to get Osama. It won't, in the short run now, affect the war in Afghanistan dramatically, but it is definitely good news for America.
Yeah.
Andrea Mitchell, it is worth...
he was living in a hole under the ground.
The president gets a presidential daily briefing, as well as a threat matrix of major threats against the United States. And there has been a question about the extent to which Osama bin Laden has been able to direct what Al-Qaeda was capable of as a centralized terrorist organization or a splinter organization that operates anywhere, almost any time after it effectively got shut down in Afghanistan and forced across the border, where most of Al-Qaeda operatives are believed to be, which is in that rugged land in between Afghanistan and Pakistan.
Well, and in fact, even if he is not directing operations, and if he is not operational, he is inspirational. And as General McCaffrey points out, as you know so well, David, the fact of his having been killed by American forces is such a major shot in the arm and is such an important factor right now, especially considering the military reputation, the importance of what is going on in the Middle East, and the frustrations, frankly, for our military in many parts of the world, setbacks in Afghanistan, problems now in Iraq. This would be a huge defeat, psychological and operational, even if it is not the fact that he is directly operational, that most of the threats in the matrix, as you point out, have been coming from Yemen. The fact is, though, them having his body, we've long known, we've had his DNA. We know from the Saudis, from members of the family, we've actually had his DNA on record, held by the United States, so that we could always, if there was some sort of an attack and not a way of identifying him, be able to say that we have bin Laden. But the fact that we actually have his body means, as you accurately and Chuck point out, that this was a military operation with boots on the ground and not just done from the air, and that is hugely important.
I want to keep reminding our viewers that we are standing by. We will hear from the President of the United States. He will address the nation momentarily from the White House. You see pictured on our screen. Speaking to White House officials throughout the night, the President's been working on remarks, going through the details of something they've been monitoring all day at the White House in secret. And now we can report that Osama bin Laden is dead as a result of a U.S. military action, that the United States has custody of his body. This now a decade after 9/11, which killed 3,000 people at the World Trade Center and in Washington, and of course a hijacked airliner that was brought down in Pennsylvania as well. A major development that the President, his national security team have been working on, and a previous administration as well, Chuck Todd. President Bush saying notably from the White House after 9/11, this was a figure wanted dead or alive. But Chuck, before I go to you, let me bring in our chief foreign correspondent, Richard Engel, who is in Benghazi in eastern Libya, monitoring another U.S. and NATO operation against Colonel Gaddafi. Richard, your reaction from a part of the world tonight that will take this news as a huge development as it is throughout the world.
This is nothing less than breathtaking. This ends a chapter, the global war on terrorism, which has defined a generation, which has defined the U.S. military missions in Afghanistan and Iraq. So many people, so many soldiers have been waiting for this moment. I know incredible numbers of troops who have been wondering what they were doing in Iraq, wondering what they were doing in Afghanistan for year after year, deployment after deployment. And now, when they hear that Osama bin Laden is dead, they will feel that their sacrifice has been for something. And they will say that the United States, maybe it's not safer, maybe this was just a symbolic moment, but the reason they signed up for military service, and so many of these young men and women signed up after 9/11, was to achieve a victory against Osama bin Laden. This is a turning point for the global war on terrorism, and in many ways, the global war on terrorism, which has defined our generation, which has defined the way we live, every way we get on airports, we get on planes, the way we live our day-to-day life, may be changing right now. And I think this is an incredibly significant development, David.
Richard, from your reporting, from your experience on the battlefield and in capitals throughout the Arab world, is this the end of something in terms of those people
might be
that
the end of
Osama bin
war,
Laden reached, or is it perhaps the beginning of something? Does his death make him a martyr?
Oh my God, these people are
I think this is the end of something. We have seen for the last decade.
we've been looking for him in Iraq, Jacob.
Extremist Islam.
He's dead. We might have the end of war.
Crest of popularity, and now with his demise, which
He
I
was the
assume
leader,
we're going to hear the
They're gonna
president
find
announce
another
very
guy to
soon,
replace him.
we could be turning into a new phase. The Arab revolutions, which I'm witnessing right here, are starting, and if the 1990s were defined by Islamic radicalism, and the last decade was defined by the global war on terrorism, the next decade could be defined by a new period, which is the period of Arab democracy, the period
I'm turning this
of
off. It's
unity.
getting boring.
And if people